Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bronco Garage, and today we are going to be working on this 1973 Ford Bronco.
Yeah, we have been doing vigorous or rigorous testing on this Bronco. We've been testing all different kinds of brake systems, and right now what we're about to do is pull off the budget disc brake system that we just put on and tested, and we're going to put on the Monster disc brake kit.
Yes, the Monster, the one that gives you all the potential of your own Ford Bronco. I mean, if you want to go off-roading, if you want to have the best braking system money can buy, this is it. Alright, so we're about to install the new knuckles from the Duff Monster Disc Brake Kit. But remember, this only works with a Dana 44. It will not work with your Dana 30. Now, if you feel like we're moving too fast and you need a little more tech, make sure you check out our Knuckle Install video where we not only cover taking the old knuckles off, putting the new knuckles on, but also pressing in the new ball joints and dialing them in as well. When using the press, make sure you wear safety glasses and also move your face away from it as you're using it to press the ball joints in. Okay, so first things first, I want you guys to notice that I did prep the axle first. I made sure everything was clean. I checked for any damage of the threads at the top and as well as the taper at the bottom. And then I went ahead and prepped and painted. Just remember that you want to put the knuckle that says 381R on the passenger side. Very important that you do not use anti-seize on the tapered stud of the ball joint. Nowhere around those tapered studs or the holes they're going in do you want to see anti-seize. Top and bottom are both going to go through the holes at the same time. Now how that works there is it's got 4 prongs and they attach like that. So you want to make sure that that is the top of your nut. You want to then take your torque wrench and set it to 20 foot-pounds. So you start small and you can always increase from there until your preload's correct. You're going to go back and forth like this and you're going to make sure that you're full range of motion and you've seated the knuckle. You're going to go back and verify that you still are at 20 foot-pounds on the adjuster. Now that I've seated the knuckle, it moves some more. You want to use what we call a luggage scale, and you're trying to get it to move at 25 foot-pounds. Once you've got that set, it's time to put the castle nut on the top ball joint, and then you're going to torque that down to 100 foot-pounds, and then put your cotter pin in. Go ahead and slide that back in the housing, and just remember that it's going through a seal over there by the center section, and then you also have to make sure that the splines connect with the carrier inside. The bolt hole spacing is actually different on 2 of them, so it forces you to put this on the correct way. It's going to have an R or an L depending on which caliper mounting bracket it is. Make sure you put the R on the passenger side. The ears go towards the back, and the bolt hole that's in one of those ears goes towards the bottom. Before I put any of these parts up against that knuckle face, I want to make sure that I use a little bit of anti-seize and just coat it very lightly on each surface so all of those surfaces coming together don't rust. Put it on the face of the knuckle, both sides of the caliper mounting bracket, and then of course on the side of the spindle face as well. Alright, so we just installed new bearings in this monster disc brake system, and if you need more information, on how to put those in and how to install everything, check out our wheel bearing tech video where we show you how to not only install them, but how to diagnose them, and it also covers the seals as well. Great video, great tech, definitely want to check that out. Alright, so now you're going to mount the caliper, and of course that means you got to put the pads in, and of course then after that we're going to put the caliper brake line. Now first thing you want to do is you want to get the inside pad. You want to put this anti-rattle clip on there, and it's really important that you mount this clip like so, right here. You're going to bring it down here, and there's two grooves on the inside of your caliper where this pad is going to mount. And sometimes you're going to need a hammer because of that little clip that you just installed. From there you're going to install the outer pad to the caliper. Now sometimes this takes a little persuasion, so I've got a board and a hammer here. I'm going to lay it in like this, and then if it's a little tight and it's not seating all the way up against the edge of the caliper, then you're going to put this on the board. And make sure you use a dead blow hammer. You don't want to use a metal hammer. You don't want to damage the pads, but just smack the sides until the pad is seated into the caliper. Sometimes you're going to get two different colors of calipers. That's absolutely normal. If you do, no problem. Just make sure that you paint them both the same color. I like to use this Duplicolor caliper paint. High temp paint, it's really durable, works great. And that way they're both the same. On the caliper, you always want the bleeder and the bolt for the caliper line to be facing upward. So that's how you know whether it's a right side or a left side caliper. So when you put this in, make sure you slide the top of the caliper in position first, and then start working it down until it seats all the way. Sometimes you'll have to use a hammer in order to get it into final position. All right, so the next step in order to secure the caliper to the caliper mounting bracket is you have a caliper support, which is this guy right here, and you also have a caliper support spring. Now, there may be two different springs in your kit. Just make sure you use the spring that actually can go over the caliper support on each side. And then you're gonna pull on this caliper and give it just enough room to get the two pieces wedged in between the bracket and the caliper so they start. All right, now that you've got your caliper support and caliper support key in position, you'll see that there's a hole here for a bolt, and there's a bolt included in the kit. It's got this taper right here, and it locks the caliper support into the bracket. All right, so the bolt already comes preloaded with some thread locker on it, and the reason for that is because you don't want to over tighten it. 20 foot-pounds is plenty for this bolt.
Now in the kit you get two different brake lines. They are not that different, so be careful to pay attention to what is actually different about these brake lines. Now looking at these two brake lines, you can see that the hole is actually closer to the shoulder on one side than the other. And the reason for that is you want the brake line to, and the reason is because there's a reason behind it that's very important. So when you have your caliper installed and it is sitting on the disc, then what you want is you want your brake line to be sticking up. So when you're installing this, you've got these copper washers, and basically it's gonna go on the top and the bottom of the brake line like so. So you got copper, brake line, copper, wait, brass, copper.
It's copper.
Copper. Back to Michael.
All right, so I secured the caliper brake line to the caliper. just like John showed you at the bench. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feed that brake line through the bracket that's attached to your axle. Now there's a clip that you're gonna use to secure that brake line to that bracket. Make sure you do that as well, and then everything will be good to go. All right, so we've got this entire assembly complete all the way out to your locking hubs, and we're gonna bleed the brakes next. But before we do that, I wanna talk to you a little bit about the front end and putting that all back together. Now you got your tie rod and your drag link here, and I want you to be sure that you get in alignment when you put that back together. You can actually check out a Heimsteer video that we did where we show you how to realign it after you put it on. Now there are some of you that are going to be running a more traditional style drag link and tie rod, and if you are, there's a bag of goodies that came with this monster disc brake kit that was with your instruction sheet. It was 2 bushings that these are actually like inserts, and they're going to fit into the knuckle like that, and then you can reinstall your tie rod ends into those bushings. Then there's also another piece, which is this fine threaded locking nut. Now this is only needed if your drag link makes contact. There's a stud sticking out where your drag link attaches to your axle. If the end of the stud makes contact with your drag link or tie rod, you'll simply take the nut that's on there and remove it, and then put this locking nut on there and cut the threads off that are right past it. Leave a couple threads, don't take them all off, but yeah, you're gonna put that on in case you need to. Now this is also a good time if you're thinking about upgrading your steering to just go ahead and check out the Heimsteer video on which steering is probably best. There's a really great system out there that you should consider that also eliminates bump steer. So we're gonna get this all dialed in, and then next we're gonna bleed the brakes and then head up to the top and get that all put on next. All right, so we just got everything wrapped up on the James Duff monster disc brake install on the bottom end. So the whole axle is done, and it's time to start installing the power booster, booster bracket, master cylinder, and of course the proportioning valve. So before I do that, I wanna let you guys know, if you already have all this stuff complete and you're happy with it, you can actually buy just the axle conversion from James Duff. It's on their website, and that way you don't have to buy the entire monster disc brake install kit. So keep that in mind. We're gonna go ahead now and show you the rest of this install and how to put this on so the kit is complete. You can take all this off as one piece, but it does come to you in 2 pieces in the monster disc brake kit. There's a jam nut that holds the rod on the back side of the booster to the clevis. You're just going to loosen the jam nut, and then you're simply going to turn the booster like this until it threads off of the clevis. And once that's off, then you can start working on getting your booster bracket off. All right, so I've got the power booster assembly out of the way, and I've got all the old proportioning valve, metering valve stuff that was on the truck off, and it's time to install the new James Duff proportioning valve. I've actually already installed the fittings that come in the brake line kit, and also there's a fitting on the back side, and then there's 2 different ways you can route the front hard brake line, either up, out, or down below. All right, so we give you a really great overview on how to put the booster, the bracket, and the master cylinder inside your Bronco. But really, there's a lot of details here that aren't being showed, and that's because we have separate videos just for those parts. Now, you can actually check out the details below in the description of the whole index for how to put this monster disc brake together. Also, you can check out, some of the other cool things that are coming along at James Duff, like they're actually offering all aluminum cast master cylinders with their power disc brake booster kit and their monster disc brake kit. So really great stuff coming along there at James Duff. And you know, I should stop talking now. John, that is a wrap. Holy cow, man. That was amazing. That kit went together like perfect.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, and you know, I think it was because it's a Ford brake kit. It's supposed to go on the Bronco. Like, there's no grinding, there's no modifications. It just bolts together.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, I mean, this kit is so beefy. Like, it feels like it was made for the Bronco because it actually has so much more strength to it. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this out and we're gonna do some testing. We've been testing all the brake kits that we have put on this Bronco for you guys. I mean, we wanna see, like, what is the best kit? What's the kit that's gonna get you to stop the quickest?
Yes.
And, you know, what's the kit that's gonna work best for you guys?
John, my money's on the Monster Disc Brake Kit. I mean, I just think it really is the best.
I mean, when you, honestly, when you see it put all together, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty awesome.
Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment below. There's a lot going on here, so I want to hear your feedback. And hey, we'll catch you next time.
That's right.